Hey, welcome. This is Dr. John Bush for my process. I published the SNAPS report on fakepigskin.com. We're having fun here. Hopefully, you've seen my show before, but if not, welcome. Let's see what else. I'll be doing my matchups probably Saturday, and it's my dog going nuts. And so you should check that out. And I think we're doing our Science of Fantasy podcast. Me and D Mike are working on that, and we'll do that as well. Uh, Ignore the dog in the background. Let's go. I look at snaps per second. To me, in that second of offensive possession time, I think that's a clear way to see player activity is through snaps per second SPS. And what you see here is a table, week 1 to 10. Each of those numbers is the team average of SPS and colorized from high to low and sorted from high to low. So the fastest teams are the Rams, Detroit, Philadelphia, Dallas, Jacksonville, Minnesota, and Seattle. The slowest are New Orleans, Baltimore, Tennessee, Cleveland, Green Bay, the Raiders, Denver, and Carolina. I have previously discussed the association of rushing activity with slow speeds, and that's what we see. So if you take a look at some of the teams that are the slowest, they tend to rush a lot more than teams that are above. So there's less rushing in some of the other uh, teams that are fast. So thinking about passing, though, when I look at it statistically, I can't see much of a difference. So it's only for the rushing side is associated with the speed. Okay, so I use it to see how jaunty teams will be. I mean, you would think the faster a team goes, probably faster passing, etc. So there are some opportunities, and you can take advantage of that. Slower teams are rushing more. So if they have a good running back, they score points. So it's all about scoring points here. Probably the most confusing teams are the ones that are kind of in the middle here. They're trying to stay balanced a little bit, and I don't know if that's good or bad. Uh, and Zoom update later. Okay, care about the Zoom update. Let's go. So continuing, I did the SPS, average player SPS, and I looked at the differences in the speed of teams the last couple weeks versus preceding weeks. Who's speeding up, who's slowing down? If they're slowing down, they're probably rushing more. If they're speeding up, they're probably rushing less. So this may be more important since most people, there's not a lot of dramatic running backs on the waiver wires for a lot of teams. So it may be more for daily fantasy or lineup decisions. But anyway, I colorize the high teams that are speeding up with purple color, and the lowest, the ones that have lost speed or slowed down, are in yellow. So I did a table of the top 7 uh, speeding up teams. So there'll be less rushing in these teams than usual. Okay. And more rushing would be found in these teams. So there may be a shift. We'll continue to watch that, but it's always critical to understand if teams are less rushing, they're probably more passing, you would think, than normal. So keep your eyes open. Again, daily fantasy sports and lineups, you might shift a little bit on your running backs, so forth. And again, there could be injury associations, other kinds of situations that could be uh, having the team shifting in speeds. Okay, so it's not, just 100% correlated at all, but it's a tendency I think I've seen in statistical tendency. So that's kind of how I approach this. This is my process. This can be yours. You can follow along, but this is what I'm doing. So I like to visualize my data. So the yellow boxes are the team differences. So in this range, the boxes are teams that are speeding up, and these boxes here are the ones slowing down. I have marked kind of the majority, the midpoints, the high and low midpoints, called it the 66% region here where most teams are falling. So it's kind of hard to make any conclusions. So again, extremes usually give you more insights than teams close to normal. So again, take a look at the previous table. Here is the high extremes. So they've been speeding up. These teams have been uh, slowing down a little bit to see what's going on there. And then in the blue triangles with the line is the SPS snaps per second, high and low, and then kind of in the medium range here, you can kind of see tiers. What's interesting is that if you look from about Washington down, that's a pretty smooth linear drop. Whereas this, if you plotted this linear here, it would go in this direction. So it would be very extreme. So fantasy football data is not smooth, not even close. And that is another reason why it's hard. And people that don't have that data training background, it can be confusing. Okay. Being in the science field, I've been doing data analysis for uh, 30 years, roughly, even more than that. Okay. So I've had time to consider data and make conclusions and apply for grants, help uh, graduate students get their PhDs, publish papers, these kind of things. And, that's what I've done is data, right? Observational or mechanistic data, right? So this is definitely observational data here, but it's really interesting that the Rams, Detroit, Philadelphia, Dallas, Jacksonville are really the five extremes. They have really uh, been speeding up here in a lot of ways. Just SPS, they've been doing a lot of snaps per second, whereas New Orleans, Baltimore, Tennessee, Cleveland, Green Bay have been doing fewer snaps per second. Player snaps per second. So there's some fundamental issues about the game, and I'll be talking about this again preseason. Uh, the few of you that are listening, good for you. You'll have more insights than those that it seems all strange and mysterious. Okay. I salute you for trying to move up here. A lot of my metrics and data is not going to be here's the fire. I'm going to work on trying to show you how to chop the wood so that you can have that deeper understanding. And a lot of people are not interested in that in fantasy. They just want the quick answers and move on so they can go swill their beer and party all night and set their lineups 10 minutes before the games. Hey, that's fine. Enjoy life. but that's not who I am, and that's not my process. So let's look at the last 5 weeks, just kind of wanting then to condense the data uh, more, let's say, how was it, more recent data, I guess. It's important to see what you've been doing for me lately here. So what you see is team SPS colorized. Green is the highest, reds are the lowest, and then I sorted based on the was I guess 6 weeks, last 6 weeks SPS here, and you can see the high teams and the low teams here, and these teams will have been doing more rushing recently. These teams will have been doing less rushing. So, if you're up here and you've got a running back that probably can't catch out of the backfield a little bit, that may be kind of tricky. Whereas these probably will have more rushing type running backs that don't need to make their living off pass catching here. So that's just kind of the extreme. So again, daily fantasy sports and lineups kind of thing. This data is pretty pertinent to that situation. Again, the drafts are done, and was it week 11? So you're probably not going. Maybe some trades happening. You know, uh, trading for these rusher types, or if you like pass catchers, if they work on your team, you've got to find the balance for what is going to work for your team. This might help you in trades as well. So we're now moving to something called scoring levels. Scoring levels is looking at PPR points scored per players by the snaps here, comparing the snaps. So associating scoring levels to snaps here. So now you're getting an idea of snappage, which is SPS, and how do they score points. So I'm trying to bring those two concepts together. So scoring is 100 is the highest scoring, 0 is the lowest. So you can look at teams to see who's been scoring more. Chicago and Carolina have been scoring less. Pittsburgh, Washington, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Indianapolis, New England, Cincinnati, Buffalo have been scoring a lot more points here. So it's good to score points. It's not good not to score unless you've got a defense and you can play defensive games here. So scoring levels, like Tampa Bay scores twice the level of Carolina here, almost 45 versus say 23.5. That's about double. Okay. So, who scored more points? Tampa Bay versus Carolina. So, again, we're not looking at the defense. I mean, the defense is in this equation here, but this gives us scoring levels. Okay. And scoring levels, the high, I put it in blue, and the low scores in red. So you can see weekly variation versus 6 week, no, yeah, 6 week variation. I mean, Carolina last week, when they had Cam coming in, went up to 40%. Look before. So if you wonder why they're happy that Cam's back, that is a spark right there. Okay, so you can consider, go through this data, and my fake pigskin will have this as a static image. You can go through that. So you can look at Arizona without Kyler Murray. Look at that. Bam. Okay, that's not good. Okay. Atlanta, boy, some highs and some lows. So what game are you going to get? Pretty risky for me. Kansas City. Mahomes woke up, but look at, he's had 3 games that are sucky, 2 games that are okay, and one that's spectacular. So just be aware, just because there was this score here doesn't mean life is beautiful again for Kansas City. Be cautious. So now that you're seeing my thinking, you can see here's the Rams really did well. Okay, they really bounced back. So you need to consider, uh, what's going on. It's hard to find, like Tampa Bay. Look at this, almost rock steady. Okay, and then you see other teams that have highs and lows, so there's a lot of variation, right? The Raiders have been doing look at these last 4 games. Not bad. If you look, look and see what teams have done what here recently here. It's kind of hard to find doublets, isn't it? Uh, you know, so that tells you something right there. Even down at below, Denver hadn't been doing too bad. Philadelphia, okay, hadn't been doing too bad. And like I said, Carolina really woke up. So that's a deeper level of these stats. If you look at the trends across the weeks and ask questions about what's going on, I think that will give you some deeper insight here. So I'd suggest you go through that and try to think about things. I think it will help you for week 11, right? Other words, can Cleveland, Green Bay, Baltimore bounce back kind of thing? Can Atlanta bounce back? The answer is no. Can Arizona? We hope Kyler Murray comes back so we can get back to better scoring, that kind of thing. So you can kind of make some thoughtful predictions, at least probabilities here. You would think Tampa Bay is the safest team in the whole league. Probably not surprising. Take a look at the scoring levels. Nice. So I think there's a lot more data than just me flicking numbers up here, and you're going to have to dig a little bit to get some clarity in your head about what this means. And then finally, I put together the team speed versus the scoring level, and I sort by scoring level, and you can look at team speed here. That's interesting. Okay. So you can look at the comparisons between these groups here. And to me, the visual kind of imparts a lot. Here is the average scoring level from Tampa Bay, sitting above everybody, to Carolina and Chicago. Sad. And then look at average of SPS player snaps here. And then I like to look at trend lines. So this is the scoring level trend line. And you can see we really fall off about Washington down. And notice Tampa Bay is really, if we were doing tiers, they would be tier 1. The next 5 teams would be tier 2, probably. Here's a separate tier. Who is this? The Jets, believe it or not. And here's another tier. Here's another tier. And then it gets really hard to find a tier here. It almost seems like a giant tier here. And then we might have some tiers there separated. So see, the data is not just stair step. It can be flowy. It can be sharp. Like this is an interesting area here in the transition. And at the same time, if you look across at snaps per second, the trend is to be a little low, so a little slow up in here. So there is some slow teams that are scoring really well. So there may be something to that. But at the end, we have sucky teams that are fast here. And so the trend is slightly moving up. I don't know if it's really highly correlated. I'd have to do the stats. I just noticed the general things here. So it is interesting. I see at the high that a lot of these teams are fairly slow compared to some of these other teams. So we can put that together for next preseason and get a little deeper still. Again, you won't find this At least I can't find it on Twitter. I'm sure there's some sites somewhere, but I don't know who's talking about this, you know. And you're saying, well, why aren't the other pundits talking about this? Because they can't. No offense to anybody out there. Come on. You know, a lot of these people talking and flapping, they're the age of my students. Okay. I've been doing this a long time from a way different perspective, and it just gives me a view that's going to be different. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm not, but I guarantee you it will be different from what most people are flicking up there. Okay, I then move to teams and their positions. And by the way, and I know I've mentioned this every time, I go top down. Okay, couple reasons. Reason one, I think if you start player up, that you get too biased too quick to players for say week 11, you know, that recency, and you know they scored, and it kind of messes up your objectivity. I think to use objectivity to the optimal, nobody is 100% objective. Okay, we all have the emotional, but we're humans, right? Okay, evolution made us to be the fight or flight, you know, to be dramatic in our decision making. Okay. And if you look on some of my movies and classroom, I have a lot of psychological biases and lots of things that speak to that world as well. Trying to get better. But anyway, I like to look at all the positions in the teams and get their SPS, which you see here, week 5 to 10. And I colorized. Red is low, blue is high. And then I get the average snap for the last couple weeks. Actually, last 5, no, 6 weeks. I see 5. Because I see 5, I think 5, right? And double 5 is 10. So I'm, you know, but no, it's 6 weeks. And then I figure out the average over 6 weeks, and I convert that to team usage. Okay. And then I get a difference. Purple is speeding up and yellow is lower, less speeding up. Okay, so differences last few weeks compared to the preceding. So it's weeks 8, 9, and 10 versus 5, 6, 7. Anything changing? And finally, okay, so that if you can't look at all these 0.0 and 8s, and what does all this mean, Bush? Well, usage scores. Okay, this is clarifying the smoke, and here's the fire. I converted this usage numbers within all running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers, and converted the highest is 100, the lowest in that position is 0. So right away with usage scores, you know if they're pretty high or pretty low or in the middle. So Arizona's running back 72. That means roughly in the top 28% at least. Arizona wide receivers 83%. Folks, that is a high usage. Not 100, but that's pretty damn high. Versus Zach Ertz. I hope you see this, my friend. Hope it works out for you. But Arizona has not been using their tight end, and hopefully when Murray's back, that will change. But right now, just be aware that's been the trend here. Look at this dramatic situation. Okay, Atlanta, they've been relying on their tight end. So that means if the tight end doesn't have a good day, then and look at the wide receivers, 30%. That's sad. I look at least 40 to 50%, or I'm not really interested. So Atlanta's mediocre. Their tight end is okay. So consider that. Baltimore, let's all run. And that's why people are chasing the running backs in Baltimore, because it's 95% of the team's show, basically, SPS players. Okay? Regardless of what people think. Poor Andrews here. Okay? Poor Brown. I mean, you're saying, well, they're doing pretty good. Well, imagine if they were much higher. How good would they be doing? Baltimore is running. That is their game plan. And that's why people are trying to catch lightning in a bottle on the waiver wire to pick up the right running back. Maybe it's Murray this week. That's why people are, really investing, is because that number seems so sweet. It's just if you divide it out, it's not, right? A committee. Buffalo, they got Moss and Singletary, and you can see they're using that. Knox at 56 is not bad. But look at Diggs and Beasley and the rest. Sad. So Buffalo is doing so good with a sad kind of usage here, in my opinion. So I wonder if that changes. We'll monitor that uh, situation here. And so I plotted it so you can see the dramatic. If you think the 50 percentile is average, then you can see what teams are sitting above or below average. And again, you can look at this. I'll have the static images here. So again, you need to consider the teams and make your own notes and consider what you think it means. Okay. Uh, when I see high like this tells me that in Arizona, uh, a lot of running back, wide receivers can have value, just like running backs can have nice value. I really worry about Ertz. That does not help me. Baltimore, Atlanta, Buffalo. I think that to me it means there's the ceiling seems to be as a group. Okay, notice this is group level data here, this positions level. As a group, there is a ceiling. I understand we're not talking individuals here. Okay. Singletary and Moss are both worth it and are going to have value with here. Just like Edmonds, if when he comes back, and Connor could have value. So here again, you can look at the usage numbers, make some conclusions, and see the sadness. You can look and see what's changed, what teams have moved up or not, okay, over time. So that can be of some interest. To me, I like this data. So from now on, I'm going to just cursory go through the four teams, but I'll stop at the uh, visual here. So again, 50 percentile, Carolina. What can I say? Everybody wants Christian McCaffrey. That's why. And Chuba. Got to have Chuba here. Look at this. This is 70%. It's nice. Wide receivers, about average. So can Cam move this up? I'm not sure this shouldn't go down and this move up. So it's going to be curious. Is Cam going to make a difference? So just realize this data was built upon the Sam Darnold experiment. We now have a new, it's kind of like game one again for Carolina. We'll see what happens. So realize this pattern may not hold. Chicago, Fields is passing here. Montgomery is not getting his full share here. I hope that goes up. Cincinnati, the reason Njoku and Hooper keep showing up in the box score is because look at this. Cincinnati and Cleveland, by the way, is that Hooper, Njoku, and this is Uzama here. Okay. That's why these have streaming value, is because of this usage score, folks. Sadness for Boyd, Chase, and Higgins. Look at that. What's that? 20% sad. Cleveland. Wonder OBJ left. Look at that. This is sad. So, and Cleveland without Chubb, sadness. Okay, Mixon's doing about average. He could do better. Take a look at these four teams: Dallas, Denver, Detroit, Green Bay. Let's see. Denver is all about the running backs here. So they have so good tight end with Schultz. And look at the Gallup and all. And yet a lot of the energy is going into Ezekiel. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. Denver. Why does Gordon and Javonte Williams, you keep wanting Williams to break out? He's not going to break out as long as Gordon and him can do it 90%. Why should Denver change? Poor Fant. He has so much talent and he's going to be kept down. And the Denver running backs, wide receivers are kind of floundering. As with Detroit, it's all about Hockenson and Swift. That's it. Hockenson, Swift, and let's forget about these. Green Bay, wish we had a tight end, but we have Aaron, and then he's hurt. So we hope that the things can work out with his replacement there. Uh, and the wide receivers about average. Can you imagine that? Basically, the reason that's hitting average, if you looked at Devontae, he would be up here, but everybody else would be down here. So when you average it, the whole group, it's about right there. So sometimes the numbers don't tell you the complete story, but we realize that, right? We've had years of experience data analysis, and we understand you can look behind the curtain. Nobody's going to stop you and see what really is there. Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Kansas City. Let's see what's happening there for usage. Let's see. Do you think Houston likes to pass to Cooks or what? Look at this. Uh, the tight end's not bad for Akins and whatnot for being a low tight end. You think Houston has running back problems? Yeah. So you could almost look and predict what the issues are in your daily fantasy, the trades, the lineups, right? Versus Jonathan Taylor. Look at this. That's nice. Mo Cox and Doyle are below 30%. That's not good. And Pittman, again, probably like Adams, probably up in here, but the rest are down here. So, but that's pretty good. And here's Jacksonville and the passing with Marvin Jones. Dan Arnold. Everybody's talking about Dan Arnold. Well, he needs to move up because look at this. That's sad. Kansas City is all about Kelsey. And I know Tyreek. Okay. And again, it's the same thing. He's up here, and probably the rest are way down here. But if Kelsey doesn't have a good day, Kansas City is going to have a tough time. So that's their secret. They're kind of a one-trick pony that way. Chargers, Rams, Las Vegas, Miami. What's up? Chargers. You would think Eckert would be higher, so that's sad. Underutilized. Cook, Parham, underutilized, but Mike Williams and Allen, all about those guys. So if they have a bad day, that just knocks everybody down. Hate allergies. Rams, very interesting team that they're balanced. And we haven't seen a lot of balanced teams before. So that tells me, regardless of what you think of Stafford, and I understand last week was a debacle, that for the most part, he has been a game manager and is putting activity where it needs to go. So that can be good. The bad news for us is that could mean we have spectacular days with Cooper Kupp, especially with Woods is gone, or we can have a great tight end or a great running back, but it's probably you can kind of get average on all those, and that would not be good for our team. The Raiders been without Jacobs for a while. You can tell 20%. That's sad. All about the Waller. And believe it or not, the wide receivers are getting more run than the tight end with Waller. So do be aware of that. Edwards, Renfro, it might be worth some late trades and whatnot. You might still get some of those guys cheaper, but keep using them. Hey, don't worry. Shh. Miami, uh, shh. The tight end, Gersecki, Smite, whoever, it's all there. The wide receivers have been almost useless, and the running backs are okay, but not strong. So Miami's a one-trick pony as well. Minnesota, New England, New Orleans, and the Giants. Minnesota is Cook and Thielen and Jefferson. Here they are. You can see. And Conklin probably is good, but they're out of balance, so he's not going to be great. New England, they've been using Hunter Henry and Sanu. Look at that. And the running backs. I think they're even shifting more, and the wide receivers have been used less, so it's really hard to play a lot of those. What was it last night was Aguilar. I mean, who knows who's going to have the game with this usage? That's sad. New Orleans is kind of balanced, but they sure are putting that tight end out a lot and not getting a lot of return. Here's the Kamara and wide receiver. I would hope this would be higher. That would drop down, and I would wish New Orleans would look like Minnesota, but to me they look like Cleveland and Cincinnati, and I think it's going to catch up with them. I know we got a new sheriff in town with Simeon and Hill, and maybe this will change. Okay, the Giants. Let's not even use our wide receivers. That's the saddest of the sad. And there's some good ones. So people keep staking their lineups on Tony and Shepard. I got shares myself, but boy, is that a crapshoot. I've got Ingram where I can. I keep seeing this number and just having probably inflated hopes about his value, and hopefully with Barkley back that this says good things about the Giants. They'll be tight end and running back specific there. uh, Wide receivers are sad. Jets, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Seattle. Let's see what we got here. The Jets actually not looking too bad. They're hitting, for the team's record, not too bad with wide receivers at average. And Michael Carter, and they're having a committee here, and he's doing quite well. And who's the other one? Tyson? Is that it? I forgot. Whoever the other one is. So it's definitely a committee. So that's the good news is they got probably some good ones, but the bad news is they're splitting it. Philadelphia, running backs and Goddard, hopefully he's back because their wide receivers have been fairly sad, 35%. They need to move this and, try to get more balanced. If Philadelphia could get more balanced, they might win a few more games. Pittsburgh, uh, they are underutilizing Najee Harris, let me tell you. And they don't have a tight end to work, so it's a one-trick pony with the wide receivers, and they need to get Ben back. Seattle, the same story. Seattle looks like Pittsburgh to me, and they've both been struggling. So sometimes these usage can kind of show what the issues are, and the wide receivers need to figure out. I'm sorry, the running backs. They need to figure out a way to get those guys going. Okay, the last four: Frisco, Tampa Bay, Tennessee, Washington. Frisco is way into the rushing. Look at this, the top in the league. And so I'm going to not work with Kittle. That's sad. And Debo and Ayuk. This means there's going to be a lot of variation being this low. That's sad. Running backs, a lot of variation in Tampa Bay. The tight end, the tight end without Gronk is going to be kind of a lot of variation with Howard and Brate. It's all about the wide receivers here. Brady's feeding these guys to set these guys up. So I think he's overutilizing these and not these positions. But hey, he's got more rings than I got. Tennessee, folks, if you wonder why Swaim and some of these others are having some days in streamable, that's why. So there's some streaming options in Tennessee. Sad about Julio, and now it's just A.J. Brown is probably here, and the rest are here. So it's a one-trick situation with the running back, wide receivers, and now that Henry's gone, this is probably not going to get too much higher, and that's sad. Washington, they sure need Logan Thomas back because they use their tight end a lot. And again, McLaurin is here, the rest of them are there. So, that's not good. And the running backs, it's McKissick and Gibson. Gibson's been doing pretty good. It's still below average. I would like to see that a little higher here for that. So just to look across at the scoring usage, the usage scores, here's the teams that are the highest in running backs and the lowest. So you definitely in daily fantasy sports and lineups and trades, take a look at this. And I graphed it out here. Nice big tiers here. I think you can see where most teams fall. Like I said, sometimes it's hard to figure out the mid teams on what they're trying to do versus the extremes there. Probably the more balanced the team is, there's probably doing better than the extremes in some ways. Here's the tight ends. Here's the highs. Miami, New England, Washington. They really need Logan Thomas back. Here's the sads here. Let's don't even use tight ends down here. And that's sad. Conklin is in Minnesota is much better than some of these other ones, but he's stuck in no man's land, no tight end land. Here's the wide receivers. Let's pass all day, all night. There we go. How deep can you go on those wide receivers? I keep hoping for Houston that Nicole Collins breaks out because I see this and I'm thinking, there could be an opportunity for him. These are the ones I wouldn't go too deep in because it's just not happening right now for the running backs on these teams. So again, the static images are available if you want to take a look at that. Okay, let's move on. We're talking team by team now. We'll have the position, the players, and their SPS average over the last 6 weeks, and there's the actual numbers. And so instead of actually giving and scaling, I think I use actually more than once there. I colorized each player green, dark green, or deep green, light green, yellow, light red, and red for high to low. And so in a snap, you can look at the team and see who the top player is as far as SPS and where they rank across the league looking at their colorized name here. So Arizona has average running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. They're all green, orange color, and you can see the pecking order there. And then of course, if you want to get deep, you can look at all the variations here from week to week. And let's see what else. I guess that's it. And you can look through here. I'll have the static images. So Atlanta, Patterson and Davis, is above average. That's pretty good. Pitts is still average. Ridley is above average, and these two are about average. So nothing dramatic. And of course, last night, I think these numbers are going to change as well. Uh, Here is Baltimore. They have Andrews and Brown are the best two players as far as SPS. And the confusion on the running backs is pretty evident here. There's a lot of them, but they're average. You can take a look at that. Look at this. Dawson Knox is in the top group of tight ends. Okay. Moss is higher in the above average. Singletary's average. Diggs and Sanders are above average as well. So you can take a look at that. I think that's interesting. Sanders still holds that. Notice that Davis was taken over for Beasley here when they were hurt. That was interesting. So you can look and see what was going on last week as well. So you can see Moss, Singletary, Moss. So for the most part, Moss has been dominant over Singletary. Christian McCaffrey, there you go. What can you say? Ian Thomas actually gets a lot of play, just doesn't get a lot of scores. Moore and Anderson, SPS, not scoring, just SPS is high. People have dropped Anderson. I'm picking him up because Cam could change his fate. It's probably worth a cheap gamble. Montgomery, Komet, Robinson. You would think Chicago's doing better, but these are where the attention is at. You can see Herbert and Mooney are kind of the next tier down. Mixon, Uzama, and Chase are the top three here, but none of them are, you know, deep green, but not bad. Okay, so Cleveland, we have Kareem Hunt and Chubb, of course, missed last week, but and Dearness Johnson has had great uh, times without Chubb there, but I think he's coming back for week 11, so sad to see a player like that that can really bring it home for you. And he probably won't get an opportunity because the two times that Chubb was there, he got some run. Obviously, the number two, but not not enough to make it worth our while. Cleveland loves its tight ends and is using both at about the same level, and we are getting uh, we are getting one good tight end production amongst two here. So you get this committee situation that doesn't help. Peoples Jones, I think, maybe injured. Beckham, of course, is gone, and that leaves Landry. I guess Higgins would step up, but nobody is deep green. Dallas, on the other hand, has four players. I think this is the only team that has four players that are this great as far as snaps per second here. Elliott, Schultz, Lamb, and Cooper. So what can I say? And Gallup came back strong. So just be aware that what you saw last week for Gallup was terms of terms of snaps per second was really nice. Wilson looks like he took a hit, and Brown lost a little bit of activity as well. Schultz, all about the Schultz here, and Elliott. I do see that Pollard did keep up with him. This is the closest they've been in the last 6 weeks. So I'm not sure if that was just a product of the game or what. Uh, over the drafting, I picked up Pollard everywhere I had Elliott, just for this kind of reason. Denver, Fant, Sutton, and Patrick are the show. Gordon and Williams are cutting each other's time. I do note that Williams really took over last week, and that's the first time we've actually seen that in 6 weeks. So maybe the switch is coming. I don't know, but I don't think Gordon's going away easily. Detroit, Swift, Hockenson, and Raymond actually surprisingly gets a lot of play in this league, and it's definitely worth a streaming wide receiver option. Here is, of course, Hockenson and Swift are deep green. Green Bay, you got Jones and Adams. That's it. Mercedes Lewis did get some play as the tight end, and he may start easing into that. He could be a long shot streamer tight end. Lazard, Scantling, and Cobb are kind of this 2A, B, and C scenario, so nobody really is standing out underneath Adams. Johnson, Ingram's gone, so Johnson should take over week 11. I mean, trouble is, scoring wise, they're not taking it. David Johnson's not getting the score. I guess if you're in a bind, you could grab him, but that's a deep bind to be in. Brandon Cooks, to me, is the sure thing. I keep hoping Collins, given I see this, he's the second place. I just, maybe things will change and Collins will show up later in the season. I do have him stashed in a few places, but not really hopeful. Taylor and Pittman are the 1-2 punch here, and Doyle and Ollie Cox are pretty much splitting any show there for the tight end. So one or the other comes up if the other one's hurt. So right now they're probably not usable unless just a deep gamble. Hines has had a couple of good games, but last week was sad, and he's had sad weeks. So pretty much 3 to 4 of the last 6 weeks have been sad for Hines. So you got to be desperate to use him. Hilton, he's had so much injury there. He's pretty much running as the 3 here, and Pascal's clearly the 2. And last week was actually the 1 over Pittman as far as snaps per second. Darrell Williams with Soler coming back. At some point, Hilaire coming back. I don't know. Definitely will keep Williams anyway. KC uses Williams. He's been getting some good run. I just don't know how long it keeps up. It's all about the Kelsey and Hill show. Pringle sure stepped up last week, so he's had some weeks, and there's a lot of variation in these 2 or 3 here, so it's kind of hard to pick out whose week it is under Hill. Eckler and Allen is the show, and again, unfortunately, Cook is starting to really split time with Parham, so that's cutting into the scoring there. Mike Williams is being used, he's just not scoring, so not sure if that's catching up with him. Guyton I had high hopes for, but boy, he's declining, and probably is not sure if Williams or Allen got hurt, would Palmer or Guyton be the number 2? I don't know at this point. Henderson, Higbee, Woods is out, and Kupp, so this is close to Dallas's level with 3. Woods would have been 4th if he could have not got injured, but he is. So Odell's coming back, but we'll see. Okay, we'll see. I think Van Jefferson is still worthy of at least a hold until we see where Beckham's SPS ends up. But it was, he jumped out there last week, so I'm not sure about that. Higbee, all in on Higbee, and Henderson, pretty good. Gaskin, you can't ignore him. He's had some good weeks here, one bad week. So 5 of 6 is, you can't. Running backs are too scarce. I'm not saying, he's the best at all, but he's in certainly the second big group here. Gesicki's all about the tight end, and if Parker can ever come back, that will really increase chances. If he's on IR, and I don't know when he's scheduled to come back, definitely worth the stash. You have a deep bench. Waddle, of course, is the show. I did see Wilson sure popped up last week. I'm not sure what to make of that. Cook, Conklin, Thielen, and Jefferson, so they're tied with Dallas as having 4. So Minnesota is a pretty strong team as well. Uh, Other than the obvious plays, Osborne I still think is a injury handcuff to Thielen Jefferson, so he's probably worth a deep stash. Madison, of course, if Cook ever gets hurt, then it's the Madison show. You got to keep him. Uh, all the confusion continues. Stevenson, week 10, and last night they were about equal, Harris and Stevenson. So it just adds to the confusion here about what's what. So nobody has extreme value here. Hunter Henry, he's touchdown dependent and didn't do it last night, but you got to keep on with him. Myers Aguilar got the touchdown last night. He's clearly number 2, even though Bourne has had his time. Harry's been coming on, but we'll see what week 11 look like when I'm looking next week. Right now, it looks like Myers is the only sure play there. Kamara Troutman has just not been putting the scoring together. Callaway's worth everywhere he's at. If he's on the waiver, you got to take him, even though TQ Smith was been number one the last 2 weeks. So I would stash him as well. Harris is 3 or 4. He's had some good weeks, but not. He's definitely not as good as these 2. Booker's time is about over with Barkley coming back. We enjoyed him while I was there. If you got Barkley, I definitely wouldn't throw him away. And if I've got a deep bench, I'm hanging on to him. You never know injuries. Ingram, I keep hoping that, and he is, in the top second tier of the tight ends. I'm hoping, he's worth a tight end 2 stash. And the wide receivers, look at the number. It's just crazy what's been out there. If Shepard can come back, he should be able to take over. Uh, it's the most confusing wide receiver crew that I've seen. And they have tons of them. So they just had so much injuries that they've just had to throw everybody out there. Makes it hard for us. Michael Carter clearly is in line for being the top dog here, and that's really nice to see if you drafted him here. Ty Johnson's a good injury handcuff, and sometimes he has a little independent value. Ryan Griffin is a deep tight end streamer, and Corey Davis and Crowder will have their moments as well. I know Moore has been the number 3, so we'll see. Mims had a little bit, but I think he's had COVID, and I'm not sure he's coming back this week. Sanders, Ertz, Smith, and Watkins is probably the big surprise. You need to. All these four should be. Well, Ertz is gone, so Goddard is coming on, but he got injured, so Stowe came in for him, and hopefully Goddard comes back and takes over. Last week, without Sanders, been a while. It was Jordan Howard, and then Scott and Gainwell were tied. So it is confusing. Howard probably the safest, and it's really not that safe. Devonta Smith and Watkins probably should be on your deep benches for sure. Harris and Deontay Johnson, Claypool, these are solid plays, and Claypool's probably close to being up there as well. Uh, point 0.028 is not bad, so definitely you want those. McLeod really woke up without Claypool there in Washington as well. So uh, if Claypool is out, then it's a you guess them on which one gets it. I picked up McLeod just on some deep benches, but I'm really, be just a gamble to use them. Collins may, if he's not there, then I guess it looks like Homer. Homer is out there in a lot of leagues in case Collins can't make it. I think he has some injury issues. Definitely go grab Homer now if you're desperate like I am. Disley, Everett came back. Uh, they've had a lot of activity. Uh, Everett, I think, scored. Lockett, Metcalf. Lockett's used more than Metcalf. That probably is a surprising stat there. Swain is just for injury handcuff purposes only. San Francisco, Mitchell and Wilson's getting ready to come back. I don't know if he goes up. So I've taken a few Wilson stabs. I don't know. It's kind of muddled still. If Hasty comes back, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Kittle could be used more than he has been. So, if you've had Kittle, it's been a lean last 6 weeks. Certainly the weeks 5 to 8, he wasn't there. So he's coming back. Samuel and Ayuk are the show. And whoever goes off, if you're lucky to pick the right one. Fournette, not bad, but Jones is pretty much out of this, and it's Bernard is probably the number two. But really, Jones would, if Fournette's gone, I think Jones would be the value. But scoring wise and how Tampa Bay is not using the running back, I'm not hostering any of those guys other than Fournette. Howard and Brait, until Gronk comes back, they're just cutting into each other's time. Evans, Godwin, they're the 1-2. Evans is not as high as you would think, and they're probably one step below what you would have thought. And I'm hoping Godwin is going to pick it up, but Tampa Bay has not really been pushing those guys like they need to. There's more there, and I don't know if Brown's coming back this week to muddy the water even further. Tennessee, Henry is gone. So last week it was a muddled mess. And Deontay Foreman, I picked him up in a couple of places. I, I don't know. It's a you guess 'em here. Uh, McNichols had a good week 9, a sad week 10. Who knows what you're going to get? Swain is kind of pulling out from these guys and might be a deep streamer. A.J. Brown, Julio's gone. And so I picked up Marcus Johnson. There he is. He's going to be the clear number 2 and may have some good value in a streaming kind of situation. McKissick and Gibson 1-2. It was Gibson's show last week. Hopefully, if you have Gibson playing, if you have McKissick, he's probably a gamble. Ricky Seals Jones. Bates had to step in because Jones got hurt, but if Jones is playing, and then he's a good play. If I can't think of the guy's name. It's been such a long time since the Washington tight end, the one that's hurt, brain freeze here. Anyway, if he comes back, then probably Jones's lose value. McLaurin, and last week DeAndre Carter was number 2, and then Humphreys was number 3, and that's happened the last 2 weeks. So Carter has some gamble value. Okay. Just want to show you the top 2 tiers of running backs. Here they are. David Montgomery as far as SPS number 1. And you can see that again. You can check this out. This shows you the static images will be available in my article. So in case you wanted to know who's who and what's what, there it is. Look at Booker all the way up to number 4 there. It's probably a surprise. Schultz number 2, folks. Look at that. Seals Jones number 3. So that's probably surprising. There it is. Devontae Parker, overly used if he can ever come back over Allen, Thielen, Jones. Maybe a little surprise. Woods is gone. DJ Moore. So some interest. Devin Smith, the rookie. Look at that. He's in the top group. Good stuff. Here's the next tier as well. You can look at that, see what you think. Okay, that's my 10-cent tour. Thanks for listening. Hopefully I helped you, educate you, come back. Good luck. Week 11. I'm coming with my matchups next Saturday, I guess tomorrow. Okay, come on back. Good luck.